Okay, I start accepting people.
Thanks.
No, así le hacía el audio.
All right, let's wait just a minute. 2 people so far, 24.
Hola, buenos días a todos, bienvenidos. Solo quería empezar informándoles de que la biblioteca, en la conferencia de hoy contamos con interpretación simultánea de inglés y español, y para acceder a los canales de interpretación bastará con clicar en el icono de la bola del mundo que aparece en la parte inferior derecha de la pantalla y escoger el idioma.
All right.
Si tienen cualquier duda, podrán contactarme por el chat de la sesión. Gracias.
Okay, hello everyone. Hello Wame, and good afternoon. This video conference with the author is part of the Festival Grec. The festival where readers from Barcelona Library Network and the Casa África's headquarters in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria had been participating during 3 weeks in this virtual book club. We were able to debate, exchange opinions, fly virtually to Botswana to meet and understand its people, get to know the writer just a little bit, but most importantly, to demystify preconceived ideas and misconceptions about Africa. I was also surprised to read in our instant communication platform, Telfi, messages such as, oh, some women had to go through this in Spain not too long ago, or, oh, that happens here in Catalonia, which is a multicultural community, or that reminds me Spain in the 50s or 60s. In effect, we are not too different. Africa is closer than what they wanted us to believe. Today, we are honored to have Wame Molefhe among us. Wame Molefhe is a Botswana writer who lives in Gaborone, Botswana. She has a short story collection called Just Once. In 2005, she took first prize in the Alexander McCall Smith sponsored short story contest organized by the British Council. Her short story Six Pack was highly commended in the 2007 Commonwealth short story competition. And the short story collection we've read during the Grec Festival was Go Tell the Sun, Cuéntaselo, was published in English in 2011 and translated into Spanish and published last April in Spain, and this month, July, in Mexico. Wame, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Hello.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for bringing us your time. We want to thank you for taking time out to have a chat with us. if anyone wants to ask a question, please don't forget to raise your hand using the little digital hand that you have at the bottom of your screen, okay? We also invite people to activate their cameras to make a more face-to-face environment and less virtual, if possible, okay? So who wants to be the first one? Who wants to ask the first question? Let's see. Let's see those hands. You need to use the virtual one, okay? The little hand that you have on the bottom of your screen. Just that one. All right, so we have Conchi. Okay, Conchi, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Yes, to break the ice. I will continue in Spanish. For me, maybe it's better, no, not for everybody to understand. He disfrutado muchísimo, Wame, leyendo tus relatos. Es verdad que no los encuentro excesivamente lejanos a nuestra realidad en años. Lo que sí me gustaría saber es, hay una expresión que se repite constantemente, que es la figura de la buena mujer y de la buena esposa en Botswana, que tiene como un decálogo de actitudes o de conductas que se esperan, como atender al marido, no preguntarle cuándo llega, dejar a las amigas o ya no salir con las amigas, rezar. Me gustaría saber si ese modelo que tú has diseñado en los cuentos corresponde todavía hoy a una realidad muy, muy presente, o es algo, no sé, más tangencial, o realmente la mujer botswana tiene que ser una mujer muy hacendosa, muy trabajar en casa, limpiar el patio con la escoba. No sé, si todavía es ese modelo el que impera en tu país y en tu entorno. Gracias.
Okay. Let me just start by saying the collection of stories were written about 15, almost 20 years ago. And they were fashioned on a lot of the teachings that I grew up on. And unfortunately, 20 years on, I really don't think that much has changed. In terms of the messages that are given, for example, in preparation for a marriage, for example, a lot of the rituals are still the same, the messages are still the same. But I think the point that one needs to make and acknowledge is that these are messages that would have been given by my mother to me. I certainly wouldn't say the same things to my daughter, for example, or my son. So I think in that way, things are progressing. But I think there is still a lot of emphasis on the woman, the wife being the homemaker, being the one who keeps things together, regardless, of the times that we're living in now. But what I also want to say is that in the stories that I write, I think the emphasis is on what happens with the women. But there's another side to it, because in the same way that the woman is coached and advised by women who have been in her situation, who have experience, the same is supposed to happen with the man. So he's also sat down and advised about being a provider, for example. So there are two sides to the story. We're still stuck a bit in the past, but I want to believe that things are changing and we're becoming more open to change, given that the world itself is changing so fast, especially these days. Yeah. I hope that answers you.
Yes, you answer me. Thank you. It's nice to hear that things are changing and evolving in a way that the women can be, more free and can decide, even if they are given some advice about marriage or other questions in life, even for men. Thank you. It's been very clarifying. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Conchi, for bringing up that question and this interesting matter. Okay, thanks a lot. So let's see, the second person wants to be next. We've been debating, talking for the last 3 weeks among 32, 33 people. So, and another person, remember, you need to raise the virtual hand that you have at the bottom of the screen. So, Wame, while people are trying to find the, oh, okay, we have Rafael. Okay, right here, Rafael. Okay, so Rafael, thank you so much for coming. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks a lot for your messages through the application, the app that we used. Okay, so Rafael, the floor is yours whenever you want. Don't forget to turn on the microphone.
Micro ahora, sí, perdón. Muchas gracias por los ratos buenos que nos han hecho pasar con su libro. Me ha sabido a poco, me he quedado al final que me faltaban más historias, no sé, me apetecían leer más historias. Pero la pregunta que haré de momento es un tema que hemos debatido mucho, es ¿dónde está la literatura africana? Yo, este tema yo lo toqué en el chat que tuvimos por escrito y yo no lo veo por ningún lado. O sea, sigo viendo unos temas totalmente mundiales. O sea, no lo veo por ningún lado. Yo no sé si ustedes tendrán dentro de su continente, pues, se encontrarán muy similares, pero vuelvo a decir lo mismo. Nosotros, los del sur, el Mediterráneo, enfrentados a los del norte, Suecia, Noruega, la literatura, el cine, hombre, tienen puntos comunes porque partimos de una cultura común, sobre todo religiosa, cultura religiosa que ha marcado muchos tabús en nuestra cultura. Pero muchas veces la manera de enfrentar los problemas son totalmente distintos. O sea, una película de Bergman no tiene nada que ver con una película de Fellini. O sea, y a lo mejor el problema es el mismo, pero se plantea y se resuelve de distinta manera. Entonces, mi pregunta es, para nosotros África es África, pero me imagino que dentro de ustedes habrán, si no por países como los conocemos actualmente, quizá por zonas o por, no sé si el substrato cultural religioso tendrá mucho que ver. Desconozco también cómo se distribuyen las religiones anteriores a las cristianas. Ya está. Ya.
Where do I start with this one? I write from Botswana, which is a country in the southern part of Africa. We are surrounded by, within the continent itself, I think there are 54 countries in all, completely different, even within the borders of Botswana. The groupings of people have completely different ways of doing things. So if I were to move, for instance, to the north of Botswana and want to conduct a marriage, I'm going to confine it to marriage because I talk about that a lot in the book. If we were to prepare for a marriage and say we were in the north of the country, the procedures and the rituals that we would follow if we were going to honor them could be completely different to what was going to happen in the south or in the north or in other parts of the country. So for me to try and define what we would term as even Botswana, let alone Africa, is very difficult. There is no one common way that defines us. I think that there's so many disparate ways, so many different kinds of people within the continent itself that it would be impossible for me to sit here and try and say that this is the African way. And I think that given that we are part of the world itself, the universality of all of the issues that we deal with are common, so they are shared. So there really is no one way of saying, okay, this is the African way. Yeah, it would be difficult for me to try and define or explain or describe it in that way. I hope I answered that.
Sí. Y bueno, una única pregunta. Las actuales fronteras de Botsuana comprenden todas la población botsuana de origen o de origen botsuano. ¿Están dentro o están en otros países, Sudáfrica, Mozambique, los que estén cercanos a ella, o están actualmente dentro de las fronteras de Botsuana?
Botswana, I think the area is about 576 square kilometers, 576,000 square kilometers. I'm not sure if that's correct, but it's a big country, the size of, say, I believe France or Texas. That's the size of the country, and there are only 2.5 million, probably less than that. We've just passed the 2 million mark. I think the one thing that is unique about Botswana or Botswana is that even, for example, when I was away at school, a lot of the people who we were there with would want to stay wherever they were at school. But a lot of Botswana tend to come home. So I think the answer to that question is that most of us live at home. And in fact, it's a lot of people who are coming into the country instead of us going out. And I think that has a lot to do with the sense that Botswana has always been portrayed as this, like the diamond of Africa and so on. Whether that is true or not is another matter. But a lot of people tend to come in rather than us going out.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot. Next person is going to be Monica. Monica, thank you. Thanks a lot. Don't forget to turn on the microphone.
Bueno, no sé si en español o en inglés.
I mean, that's up to you. If you want to do it in Spanish, we have an interpreter. So the one that you feel more comfortable with.
I feel nearer to Wame if I speak in English.
Right, go ahead.
So, if you don't mind. I think it's fair to tell you a bit of the things that we were talking about while we read your stories in the book club. And one of the matters that was very much raised was that it didn't feel so strange, these customs, because we thought that here in Spain, say 30 or 40 years ago, this was also the rule. These customs for funerals and for weddings and for legacies, and the country that was getting empty, and the children that had different customs to their parents and were estranged by them. So in this sense, I think we are very near in the just a difference of time, a lapse of time. What the uses have been here in Spain and what we can see from your stories in Botswana. And also another issue that was debated was the need to write in your African native languages instead of the colonial French, English, whatever. And I think we I think we really give a lot of importance to these languages. We don't live there, we don't know exactly the way they are used, or how, or if they really go into the development that is interesting for a country, or they bring it back. And so I think it is perfectly valid that the colonial languages are being used to write, because it's a larger communication. And finally, the way to convey these ideas and these sentiments and all these emotion is it doesn't matter in which language, and obviously it has a lot more echo when it's written in one of these vastly read languages. And so it interests me, yes, to know if I can't remember the names. I think Tosha was one of the languages, and Setswana. If these languages are being written, and if there is a systematization of these languages, that we can look forward to having production written in your languages. And also, I must say that I read a few of your stories in English, and I loved the musicality of your writing, and I really enjoyed them also. And I say to Federico that he's done a great job with the translation too, because for some things it's really difficult to convey the thoughts. That's all. And thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for being here too, and thank you for that. And yes, and thank you to Federico actually for taking it upon himself to do the translation. I think you've commented on a number of issues. One of them is to do with the question of language and the choice, my choice, in fact, in this instance, to use English to write. And I think my explanation of this is that I actually write Setswana English, if I can put it like that. I doubt that somebody sitting in London would express themselves in the way that I do, because the language that I speak may conform to certain grammatical rules, English rules, that vary also so greatly. But I really believe that my writing is Setswana, but I happen to use English. In the case of Botswana also, historically, as you rightly said, English is actually the official language. Setswana is the national language, and there are many other languages that are spoken and also written as well. And one of the issues that we are actually grappling with right now is this question of recognition of local languages, and for them to be elevated to the status that English has been currently. And that is one of the, I think for me, this is one of the gripes also that I have, but it goes back to the decisions that were made, choosing English over Setswana, over Sekalaka, over other languages. And the argument that has been given is that it was an attempt to unify, that we would be unified by the use of English. I have my own opinion about that, but I think this is a debate that has gone on and that will continue to go on. Mine is a conscious choice to write my Setswana English. I can write in Setswana. I haven't though. I haven't written any books yet in Setswana, but I mean, it is my first language. English is the borrowed language. So yeah, the question of language is one that we will continue to debate. I think it's not unique to us in Botswana. I'm not sure if there are any other questions. You also talked about the similarities of customs and cultures, what is conveyed in the stories and what you yourself can identify with. And I think that's the case. And I hope that this is what I achieve with my writings also, that regardless of the origins or where a person happens to sit on the globe, that they can relate to the stories, because they are about life and shared customs, beliefs about humanity, really. And they are applicable whether you're in Botswana or Spain or England or wherever in the world.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Monica, for this interesting summary regarding the topics and issues raised during the virtual book club. Maite, you are next, so the floor is yours. Don't forget your microphone.
Hola, buenas tardes. Digo que, bueno, yo no hablo inglés, por lo tanto prefiero que me traduzcan. Primero saludar a Wame y decirle que me han gustado mucho tus relatos, que ha sido una aproximación muy fructífera y muy gratificante el poder haber leído de Cuéntaselo al sol. Bueno, primero yo tenía unas cuestiones. La primera era el título. ¿Por qué ese título y no otro? Luego, en segundo lugar, te quería preguntar sobre los primeros cuentos donde la protagonista principal es Setuña, no sé si lo pronuncio bien, y este nombre, el nombre que has utilizado, ¿por qué has utilizado ese nombre y no otro? Y luego, bueno, decirte que de todos los relatos que he leído, me han gustado mucho Rizos Mestizos, La Vigilia también, y ¿A quién se lo cuentas? Los otros también, pero estos me han gustado más. Y sobre todo porque el de Rizos Mestizos me ha llamado la atención que el modelo de belleza de la chica africana parece ser que es el modelo occidental. El pelo liso, como ella tiene el pelo rizado, pues se hacía estiramientos y demás. Luego, en cuanto al tema del luto y de los funerales, las mujeres, mujeres casadas, ¿no? Una vez muere el marido o muere un familiar, la rapan al cero. Esto tiene algo que ver porque la religión cristiana no es, por lo tanto, no sé si es una tradición, una costumbre propia de Botsuana o de toda África en general. Bueno, y en fin, no te hago más preguntas porque si no me extendería mucho. Mis compañeras han preguntado algunas cuestiones que yo quería haber preguntado, sobre todo Conchi, que hablaba de la mujer, ¿no? Si la mujer actual pide alguna revolución a ese tipo de mujer establecido como la abuela, madre, que bueno, que siguen un modelo un tanto arcaico. Muchas gracias y enhorabuena. Sigue escribiendo, que te leeré mucho.
Thank you very much for that. I thought I was keeping track of the questions, but you'll remind me, and maybe Fede will also help remind me of the questions. Let me start with the last one first. and that's the shaving of the head, of the hair. And I'm not sure that it happened in reference to the wife and the husband, or it was in the story Colored Locks, where it's the young girl's grandmother has died, and then there's that shaving of the head, of the hair. And I think that if there are Botswana listening, they're going to correct me if I'm wrong, but I associate this with saying you are removing the bad, the past. And so the shaving of the hair means you are now freeing yourself from what was in the past, and you are stepping afresh into the future. So I think that's what that signifies. I'm not sure that it was it was in reference to the wife. I do think it was the child. So there are other ways that we mourn. There could be the shaving of the hair. There could also be a band that one wears, a black band, black cloth that one ties onto their shirt or whatever, a piece of clothing anyway, that marks you, that says that this person is in mourning, and therefore I guess you are treated in a certain way more kindly perhaps than you would if we did not know that you were grieving. So I think that's the hair story. Again, in terms of where we are, women today versus women say 50 years, I do believe there's been a lot of change. One thing that I want to say is that one thing that I believe also in the writing of these stories is that I believe that there is an enormous amount of good that we can capture from the culture that we have, that there is good in our attempt to preserve. A lot of these rituals and traditions that we have actually mean something. If you dig deep and you ask the origins and where this was coming from, for example, after a woman has a baby, the 3 months that she's supposed to stay in isolation, there's a reason for that. And I mean, we see it now with the pandemic, with COVID now, and isolation and what, and there was a reason behind it, that you were keeping the baby safe and the mother safe. So for me, I really don't want to look at all of these traditions that we have and shred them and toss them out for something else that I don't even understand. So there are some practices, of course, that I question and that I don't honor, but there are a whole lot of others that ground me, that I do believe that there is a need to preserve and honor so that we understand ourselves as well. I think there's 2 questions. You might have asked something else, and I'm sorry.
Regarding the title, she was asking regarding the title and why
sí,
you chose Petunia.
Ajá.
El modelo de belleza, rizos mestizos. ¿Sí? El modelo de belleza de rizos mestizos aparece una joven que bueno, siempre deseaba tener el pelo liso, se lo estiraba continuamente. Ese modelo de belleza occidental. Conti, ¿sí? Es el modelo de belleza occidental.
Okay. Let me start with Go Tell the Sun. The title of the story really came. There's no story in the collection that's actually called Go Tell the Sun, but Botswana is a desert country. The sun shines probably 90% of the time, and so my message really, or what I was attempting to say was that there are so many things that are kept hidden away. There are secrets that people can't keep, and things that are done under cover of darkness, if I can put it like that. And my wish is for these to enable people, to give people the voice to be able to say, to speak out, to come out, so that so that there are less secrets. So tell the sun, because the sun is there and will always be there for you to talk to. Okay. Now, Situnya is a name that if I were given the choice to give myself a name, I would have chosen Situnya for myself. Situnya is a flower, but on the other side, Situnya is actually also means gun. So it's a double-edged kind of meaning, so that there's a beauty of the name, the flower, but there's also this other side, the dangerous side. So yeah, in fact, this came after I chose the name. I chose it for the flower, and then afterwards I realized, oh, but it actually means something else, and I decided to keep the name. Now, why would the girl want straight hair? The Lord alone knows. Brings me back to the question of language and who we are and belief in ourselves and the cultures and honoring our ways, preserving those ways. And the hair debate for a Black woman particularly, the hair debate is one that rages all the time, Why are you straightening your hair? Why are you not keeping it natural? What does it say? Does it mean you are less African and so on? And that's a debate. I've done it all. I've worn a wig. The only thing that I haven't done is I haven't worn a weave. But I mean, the wig I've done, I've braided my hair, I've cut it up, So yeah, the hair for me is we express ourselves in so many ways. But why she wanted it like that, I don't know.
Muy bien. Gracias.
All right, so just for the participants, please don't forget that we need to allow, a few seconds for the interpreter to translate from Spanish to English, okay? So the delay that we have is totally normal, okay? Just in case. All right, so let's see. Ángeles Jurado, you have the next question. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, muchas gracias, Federico, por el excelente trabajo de traducción que has hecho de la obra de Wame. Thank you to the writer for the kind of stories and the kind of writing that you developed in this book that I've really loved. It's not related strictly to the book. I just wanted to know how is your the procedure that you follow when you're writing. If the inspiration come and you're working, is where did you get the themes from? The choices you make for the length, for the way of telling the story, for the voice of the person who's telling the story. How does it work with this book? And also, if possible, the kind of feedback you're receiving from your book, apart from us, of course, from your readers in both Botswana and also in other countries like in Spain, please. And thank you very much again. And I hope you understand me. My English is a little bit rust.
I understand you perfectly, I think. The process that I follow for writing, that's a difficult one, because the stories will come from anywhere, at the most unexpected times. It may be a conversation that I'm eavesdropping on. It may be somebody's walk. It may be something that I've, say, watched or overheard. Or the inspiration comes from different places. For example, I mean, there was a phase. I went through a phase of watching National Geographic, and there was a program there that had, I think it was called Prey Predator or something like that. But that's where the inspiration for the story Empty-Handed came from, where the man gets greedy and he wants the government to give him money when his goat has been killed. That actually came from watching National Geographic. Usually the stories will start with something that is bothering me, some issue. For example, the hair issue that happened to appear in Colored Locks, where I was questioning the whole question, the idea of who we are and how we are raising our children. The parents will believe that they are giving their children, opening doors for them for a better future by taking them to schools where only English is taught, and they neglect this one. And so I had observed this, and I wondered, but what is it that we are teaching our children, and does it really make it easier for them to progress in life by shedding who they are and trying to be these people who they in fact can never be? So yeah, the stories come from everyday life. As a mother also, there are stories about women and daughters and the dynamics in that relationship as well. Some of the stories come from there. Yeah, so yeah, they come from all over. And there are things that I think that trouble me. And even though this collection was written, say, almost 15, like I said, 15 years ago, so given the opportunity to write them again, they may come out different, but in terms of the issues that they tackle, I do believe that they probably be quite the same. In terms of the length, I think the story just ends when it must end, when I've said what it is that I need to say. When I write at the beginning, when I started writing, I was fortunate to have a mentor who worked with me. So every month I had to produce a story, and I had to produce a story of 3,000 words. And I think this programmed me into the 3,000 word length. I've experimented and really dreamed of writing a novel, but I do believe that I'm running out of time. I don't think that I'll ever write a novel. I think that I will always write short stories. This is this is where I feel most comfortable working. So I'm looking forward to writing more short stories.
I think it's refreshing because most people, writers that I know, it looks like they think if you're not writing a novel, you're not writing at all. You're not a writer. And personally, I love short stories. The shorter, the best. So I really appreciate the kind of work you do. So thank you very much. And also I have another question, because I also read the book a little, I think in May, the beginning of May or something like that. And I had the impression that there was a short story that didn't match with the others. That was the story of the couple who had a child, and the child was not the child of the father, of the husband. And they realized that it was like that because there was an accident, and they had to find the blood for the. And I don't know why, but I had the impression that this story had nothing to do with the rest. I don't know why. So why did you choose this kind of story, and why did you put it there? Or if I am wrong, nothing, but just impression.
Well, the stories were written at completely different times. And so, I mean, even the fact that Situnya keeps appearing in the different stories, that there is no real link. I mean, you can't read one story and then go to the next one. You can read one and then that's it. It tells the story, and that's it. And I think that this is an issue that I just wanted to deal with, the issue of the load, the weight that is placed on women bear children, to bear sons, in fact, and how much pressure there is on that, and how people are willing to sacrifice dreams that they've had that don't include children, but they feel that, you know, this is the right thing to do. This is what is expected of them. And so I wrote the story, and it fell into Go Tell the Sun. Maybe it doesn't belong, but that's where it happened to fall, because it was an issue that I thought that I needed to write about.
All right. Yeah, the story that Angeles is talking about is called Empty Hands. Yeah, it's the first short story when we open the second part of the collection. Romney, you are next. How are you today? Are you ready? Yes, you are next. I mean, you had the hand, okay, raised. I don't know if you want to, or it was just a mistake.
No. I actually did raise my hand. But first of all, I just want to say congratulations, a huge congratulations to Wame. I met her in 2018 and in Zambia on a writer's workshop. And I'm really proud that she actually did publish. It's a beautiful story and I really loved it. And I'm actually learning Spanish. So one day I might actually have a copy myself and then I can read it. But then the question is very interesting because I wanted to ask you, you know, yesterday I was reading up on Patrick Rothfuss, and then he was actually asked how he handled publishers. And he said that publishing or translating actually into another language is a little bit difficult, especially if you're trying to keep the essence of the original writing, because, you know, the imagery and certain essences that will definitely be lost in translation. Did that come up with you, especially when we were working alongside Federico? How did you handle that? And, you know, for me, if I do learn how to speak Spanish and I can read it, if I do read it, will there be a noticeable difference, especially for somebody that has read it in English originally? So, yeah.
Well, so the question was for me. So actually, it was not really hard. I know Wame for like 7-8 years. So this is a sort of like acting. I need to be like the writer. When I sit down and I want to translate, I'm not Fede anymore. I am Wame, I am in Botswana, and I try to understand the environment. So it's an emotional thing. And this is something that people sometimes are not, you know, don't value or appreciate or are conscious of. Okay, so I'm just trying to be, you know, the writer, and probably that's the only way to succeed when it comes to translating. And of course, I have many questions that I've been asking, you know, through email to Wame, and we discussed, we debated, so it was a nice process. So, and I always have Wame's support. Thank you, Wame.
And another thing that I wanted to add is, if I want the copy in Namibia, how will I get it? When will it be available?
A physical copy or an ebook copy? Electronic one or the paper one?
The physical one.
Unfortunately, it's not available in Namibia or Botswana. Unfortunately, it's just available here in Europe and Mexico. Okay, but I will, Romney, I will send you an ebook. Okay, an electronic copy. Okay, I'll do my best to send you an electronic copy in Spanish so you can practice and compare the English and the Spanish, which is a great way to learn our language as well. Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So let's see. Thank you, Ronnie. Marta, you are next. We have 10 more minutes, okay? 10 more minutes. Marta.
Hola, antes que nada yo quiero agradecer a Federico por esta invitación. para estar en esta plática con Wame. En lo personal, nos estamos introduciendo a lecturas africanas por medio de Federico. No te he leído, ya encargué el libro, pero no te he leído, pero todas las preguntas que te han estado haciendo, pues enriquecen a todos los lectores, ¿no? Nos enriquecen porque es una manera que seguramente cuando yo lea tu libro lo voy a entender mejor por haberte escuchado y realmente me siento muy agradecida por la oportunidad. Te felicito, agradezco que se den este tipo de cosas, este tipo de eventos por Zoom, porque bueno, yo estoy en México y efectivamente veo muchas similitudes. En un comentario que estabas haciendo hace un momento de luto, pues sí, en México se acostumbra a poner un moño negro en una puerta para que todo el mundo sepa que hubo que alguien murió, o inclusive hay en algunos lugares donde acostumbran la cinta negra en el brazo. Entonces, finalmente, hay muchas similitudes y hemos encontrado en las lecturas que hemos tenido. Agradezco la oportunidad, agradezco tu presencia y muchas gracias también a todos los que están participando porque nos enriquecen y espero leerte ya muy pronto. Yo ya encargué mi libro. Gracias.
I don't know, Wame, if you want to comment.
Thank you for that. I don't know. Yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, I appreciate this kind of feedback. And I mean, this kind of community, you know, also hearing people's feedback and comments and questions, for me, is also very affirming. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot, Marta. Appreciate it. Thanks. Rafael, you are next, okay? Just try to be brief because we have yeah, try to be brief because we have 7 minutes.
Respecto a la lengua, las élites de Botsuana, ¿qué lengua hablan? ¿Y cuál leen? Y otra, pero dentro de esta pregunta, ¿hay alguna lengua más mayoritaria, o sea, mayoritaria dentro del grupo? Y si estas lenguas están ya gramatalizadas, o sea, ya tienen su gramática, su ortografía y están unificadas. Esa era alguna pregunta. ¿Y qué ocurre con la transmisión de los relatos orales? Que en todas las culturas tradicionales, antes de que la gente sepa leer y escribir, le han llegado lo que hoy en día en valenciano llamamos rondallas, pues en otros se llaman cuentos. ¿Qué ocurre con este tipo de literatura? ¿Se está recogiendo? ¿Se está perdiendo? Como nos ha pasado en Europa, o en España, o en Valencia. Entonces, esto ya está. Y yo creo que ya está. No pregunto más, que si no me alargo yo también y acaparo demasiado. Vale, gracias.
Okay. In terms of the language, Botswana's official language is English. Setswana is the national language, but there are other languages that are spoken, and it is very regional. I can't say off the top of my head how many they are, but most of these languages are spoken, or they are also written. And I think we talked about it briefly before, that there is a move to ensure that these languages achieve the recognition and acceptance in the whole society, as much as English is, as much as Setswana is. English really has been forced on us. I think that is how I should put it. It is the language that we must use, the official language. But there are other languages, and this bid to ensure that other languages are recognized and used is ongoing.
All right, thank you, both of you. Thank you, Rafael, for bringing up that question regarding languages. Kathy, you are next. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to ask a question to Wame. Why did you choose, I don't know if this question has been asked before, but maybe I was a bit late, so sorry if it's repeated. Why did you choose to use the same name for the character, for the main character in the stories? At the beginning of the book, I got confused. I didn't know if it was the same person or not. Did you want this for the readers, or is this just a chance, or what's this? I would like to know if it's only because you love that name, or if there is another reason.
Okay, the reason for using Situnya and having her reappear in different forms, I understand that for some people it seems confusing. You know, is this the same person? Is it a different? Is it a different Situnya? But what is going on? And the idea really was to say that I am. She represents any woman. I don't know what the word is. I think archetype. So she's representative of a typical, if I can put it like that, Motswana woman. So if we were to put her in a situation, in a particular environment, how would Situnya react? If she were to be taken out of that environment and confronted with another issue, how would a typical Motswana woman, if such a creature exists, how would she react? So it was really, the idea was to say, a Motswana woman, in the way that it is defined, and I'm treading very carefully in saying this, because it's what is a typical Motswana woman? But I mean, given the culture, or given all the rules and all of those things that are discussed in the book, we create this creature. And so how does this creature behave in different circumstances, giving the teachings that she has absorbed as she grows, you know? So that was the idea. That was the idea behind it. And I really wanted the stories to be read so that you could read it and finish it, and it's a complete story. And you start a new one and it is a complete story. Yeah, so maybe I was trying to be clever.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to have the very last question, because the interpreter work is very demanding and tiring. So the last question, Sol, you are next. You ready? We're gonna finish with Sol's question. Sorry, Matt and Evan. Okay, I'm really sorry. Let's see, Sol, are you ready?
Yeah.
Sol,
Vale.
Sol Ra. One
Sí,
second, Matt. Sol
sí. ¿Es ok? Sí, ¿no?
Yes, Sol, you ready?
Bueno,
Hola.
muy brevemente.
Matt,
¿Puedo hablar ya,
I'm
Federico?
sorry. We are gonna have, this is gonna take only just an hour. Okay, so Sol is gonna be the very last person. Okay, I'm really sorry, Matt. Sol was before. Okay, I'm so sorry. As I was explaining before, the interpreter work, it's very tiring after an hour. So that is the reason why we have these encounters just for an hour. Okay, especially in English and Spanish. So sorry, Mara. I will try to invite you next time, okay, for another meeting, okay, or encounter. So Sol, are you ready?
Hola, Wame. Hola, Federico. Bueno, quiero agradecerles por acercarnos a esta traducción maravillosa, muy linda. Yo sí pude ver y reconocer esa literatura africana de costumbres. Me gustó mucho la integración con el lenguaje, creo que es muy necesario y creo que es algo que sucede naturalmente y que está muy bien reflejado en cada relato. Me gustó el desarrollo de esa flor en cada uno de esos cuentos. Y quería preguntarte, Wame, si podrías contarnos cómo fue tu recorrido como escritora, cuál fue tu inspiración. Bueno, vos le dedicás el libro a tu papá que te enseñó a tu mamá que te enseñó a leer y a tu papá que te impulsó a escribir. Y quería preguntarte, bueno, qué oportunidades encontraste, qué obstáculos, y bueno, y también pedirte que continúes y que Federico nos siga acercando este tipo de obras. Así que gracias.
Okay. Okay. I actually fell into writing by mistake. I can't claim that it is something that I was born wanting to do. I trained as a scientist. I studied microbiology. That didn't go very well. And I worked for 20 years as a scientist in a water company. And just before I was going to receive my 20 years of loyal service, I quit. I just dreaded the thought of getting a prize for being in an employment for 20 years. So I left my job and I started to write, and I happened to win a prize. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be rich and famous writing stories. And I started sending out stories. And of course, I didn't win any more prizes, but I discovered that writing was something that I actually really, really needed to do. So I've been doing this now since 2005 when I quit my job in 2008, but I really had no plan. And I was even afraid to call myself a writer. I still stumble a little bit when people say, what do you do? I write. But in 2016, a friend encouraged me to go for training for school. So I went for some training in a creative writing school. And I thought after that, I felt more confident because like the book was written 10 years ago and there still isn't another book that is complete because I'm so unsure now of what I want to do. I write and fix and keep, I'm still too scared to share. But I mean, my journey here has been zigzag. It wasn't straight. It wasn't because I knew I had to write. I fell into it and I'm still growing into it and still finding my feet. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So thank you so much, Wame. It was a pleasure having you among us. Okay, people from Spain, from Mexico, from Argentina, and also Namibia. Okay, so thank you so much for the participants, Casa África, the Barcelona Library Network. Okay, and the Grec Festival, of course. Thank you, the interpreter, and all the people that are working behind, okay, these computers, these cameras, screens. Thank you, Wame, so much for your time, for sharing your stories, your experiences, and we are looking forward to reading, okay, your next short story collection.
Thank you very much for this time. I was so frightened about coming up and speaking, but it's been incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you indeed. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure.
Gracias. Hasta luego.
Bye.